I did my paper on genetic modification, which is when people can go in to a developing baby before birth and take out or put in new genetics. So this in itself is a very controversial topic because some people are for it. Some people think that, this is just our new evolution and we're going to be even better and we're going to save a whole lot of lives. However, other people think that this is way too much and tampering with someone's genetic makeup can result in some very bad ethical issues. So my thesis is, even though this research could potentially prolong life and possibly eliminate inevitable sicknesses that is passed genetically down, tampering with something as sacred as someone's genetics is an unethical practice. One of the points that I made in my paper is human testing, because this is for humans and we can practice it and test it on plants and animals as much as we can or want, but at the end of the day, there is going to be some human testing involved. And it could result in some lifelong injuries that this person is going to have to deal with. The person even consent to it, and their life is basically being taken away from them if something were to go wrong with this testing. One of my quotes was, human germline gene editing would constitute inherently unsafe human experimentation, putting any resulting children at extreme risk of harm, and effectively irreversible genetic changes. So basically, it's talking about how this can be very harmful for this developing child, and if it does make it to becoming a human, it might deal with some genetic changes that it doesn't like or will affect them negatively. Another one is an example that I pulled, and it was the DES drug from the 1980s. Was a drug prescribed to pregnant women who years later suffered from cervical cancer and passed this genetic predisposition to other health issues to their daughters. This example is very much like this one, because with genetic modification, with any drug or any practice, things can go wrong. Nothing is certain that it will be 100% okay. And this drug that was prescribed to these ladies, they thought would help them, but ended up not, and ended up harming them. So this just shows that, and that was just a drug and didn't even have to deal with going into the genetic makeup of a child or a human. Another point that I made was the no consent, because we are talking about developing humans. We're not talking about people that are already out of the womb. And at the end of the day, this is their genetics that we're tampering with, and we're not even getting consent except for from their parents. So they don't even know what they're basically signing up for. One of the quotes that I got was, suppose a mother and father select an embryo based on its supposed genetic predisposition to musically, but the child grows up to dislike music. Will this alter the way the child feels about its parents, and vice versa? So if the child is now musically capable but doesn't like music, will its parents be upset because they just spent a whole bunch of money to give it that genetic gene and it's not even going to explore it? And will the child be upset because it doesn't like music and now it has basically a gene that it will never use or never want? Another thing is, these types of cosmetic genetic improvements can violate a child's autonomy in regards to the way they mature, learn, and grow. So that just speaks for itself. The child isn't going to be its most authentic self, which can also play a part in it being upset with its parents later on if it does find out that it is genetically modified. It can definitely play a part in how this child will grow up now compared to how it would naturally grow up and become a human. The last point that I made in my research paper was, when will the line be crossed if it isn't already? So this is one of the main things people are upset or worried about, and something that I put in perspective when learning about this. So, in my personal opinion, the line is already crossed by you tampering with someone's genetics and making them into a person that they would not usually be, because its genetics are tampered with and messed with. So if this line isn't already crossed, then when will it be? When will scientists stop? A quote that I pulled was, "Social constructs are temporary. What is considered to be too extreme now can very well be considered normal in the future." They made an example of cosmetic surgeries like breast implants and such like that, and how like years ago we would be so against it, and now it's almost normal for people to have some sort of cosmetic surgery. But at the end of the day, this is genetics that we're talking about, and I really don't think that this is going to change for people unless it's like, I don't even know, like thousands of years later maybe. But even then, this is just, it's the whole moral aspect of it. The last quote that I have is, "Humans are constantly changing, and cosmetic genetic engineering could prove to be the next step in terms of our evolution," which goes with the first quote. Humans are supposed to, in my opinion, evolve naturally without scientists going into a developing baby and taking out genetics and putting in genetics. And of course, there's always that gray in between, like, what if there's a cancer genetic in there? They could go in and take it out and the child will live much longer. So if we do that for all of our children, then our population is probably going to be a whole lot more than what it is now, because people aren't dying as frequently from genetic past diseases, which could be a good or bad thing. Population control might need to be in place. However, this can make people more healthy. It can also turn quickly into greed. It may start with people with more money being able to have doctors and scientists give their babies more of an athletic gene, more of a music gene, something that will help them along the lines instead of just helping their health. The parents will become more greedy. Here are some sources that I have chosen to help me with this research paper. Overall, this again is a very controversial topic. There are a lot of pros to something like this happening, and there are also some cons. Of course, the pros would be we would eliminate early deaths or deaths through lineages. We can grow our population and people won't die for something like cancer. in the future if it's a genetically passed disease. This could take a turn for people wanting to be greedy, like I said in my past slide. People would want to be more athletic, or make their kids more athletic, or make them more artistic, a way to get them more money. It could be really greedy. Also, with the no consent, that can also play a very big part, because a human has a right to say whether they want their genetics to be messed with or not. And because this is a developing baby, not someone that can actually talk and express their emotions or their opinions on things just yet, you're not going to be given the consent. So this isn't really even ethical. And then lastly, my very first point is human testing. That in itself is not something that we practice already. We usually just deal with animals, and then once it's okay for animals, then we move on. And time again, either this testing, it's either really good and nothing happens to the animals that it's already tested on, or it can be really bad and the animals can go through some genetic trauma. It's kind of a 50-50 shot, and they're already planning on moving it to children. So if they were to do some human testing on it, then children might suffer some genetic modification problems. And that's never a good thing.